Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Alternative Finance Toolbox, DAO tools for the creation of alternative economic systems. With the participation of Franz Josef Allmayer, founder, Integrity.Earth, Hypha, Digihub.li.
Thank you for the previous panelists. It was a perfect setup for what I'm going to be talking about, and going to make it even more ambitious to show you a whole package of tools and solutions in only 15 minutes. So bear with me. I know I'm also the last session before the obstacle between you and your lunch, so I appreciate your attention. Yeah, as I said, the previous panel was perfect. It's all about impact. We know that money today has an impact which is laden with negative externalities, essentially putting us market failures, the world in a market failure of Anthropocenic proportion. And the tools that we need to do is actually to have incentives and impact that is intentional, so that we know exactly where our values are going. In this age of information, we're able to already in real time measure the impact that's going and create economical systems that are anti-rival by design, that actually have positive externalities instead of negative externalities. And that's exactly what I'm going to be showing you about. This is the digital world that I've been dwelling in, eating and breathing from it for the last 4 or 5 years. And this is actually all live. Also, yeah, I'm going to start here. We are right now in a threshold of leaving behind the industrial age, where all of these externalities come from competitive markets, from essentially a linear monetary system based on legal contracts that are, as we said, if you extrapolate it to the higher level, essentially politics, based on hierarchical corporations, based on pyramidal schemes, based on corrupt media, a lot of different things. And one of the linchpins in that is that there's centralized systems. And this stage, we are in the DAO moment. This is really a paradigmatic shift that we're going through, where we're moving away from this industrial age into the age of information. And the vehicle for this, as if the industry had corporations, we need a new vehicle for allowing this human coordination to come to life and to allow us to self-organize in a way that is fully transparent, that provides us impact and moves away from all that you see from the left side into the other side, using nature as a guidance in terms of how do we organize. So we're talking about no longer competitive markets, but living ecosystems that are self-organizing and aggregating contributions towards that impact economy to make it real. Talking about circular value flows, talking about on-chain agreements that can be done with simple access to a mobile phone, and you can actually see all of those involved and how those agreements are actually affecting the whole chain of value. And if you add all of that into decentralized organizations, you create a series of cooperative networks that are sharing purpose. Let me dive in. So the tools that we created can be summarized in an easier way. I don't know who of you have heard about the term DAO before, but it's essentially an acronym for Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. This means a lot of different things. You can imagine it can be a decentralized, fully collateralized bank. It could be a digital cooperative. It could be a digital startup for entrepreneurs. It could be so many different things, and it could also be for a city, for a village, for a bioregion, for a nation state, or essentially for the entire planet. But the way we've summarized it in a way that is very tangible, we call it organization in a box. And to be more precise, even better stated, organization out of the box. Because essentially, we have all the tools that you need to start a venture simply within a few clicks away. So whether it's collaborative decision-making tools that allow you to allocate governance to members, interoperability between multiple currencies, multiple tokens. You have the layers of governance, compensation of payroll. So you can also see it as a human resource engine where you're able to attract talent and allow that talent to contribute to the purpose that you've defined. You're also able to assign through this human resource engine roles. So we have the concepts of role archetypes. We have the concept of badges to honor reputation in the decentralized ecosystem. And all of these members are essentially managing a collectively owned treasury based on smart contracts, again, fully transparent. And at the core of this, what we have is also contribution accounting, which is what the blockchain enables us to do. And as we were speaking in our previous panel, contribution in multiple forms of capital. So no longer simply measuring financial capital as the only form of capital, but all the other series, whether it's natural capital, spiritual capital, human capital, experiential capital, cultural capital, all of these things can now be given value towards a shared ecosystem and aggregated into actual economies that are competing in the open market for members, for trust. What this does is beautiful because it lowers venture costs. So that means within a few clicks, you can actually start an organization and manage that and attract capital. You have the layer of transparency, which brings also trust. So you're able to know exactly where the funds are going, where they're going, why they're going there. And this allows to really streamline team organization. So you're able to put all of this essentially on a website or a mobile phone and invite others to contribute and also earn from what you're doing. Talent acquisition is a beautiful thing. It's a self-selection process where if you share that purpose towards creating that positive impact, if you resonate towards that, you can actually also join and aggregate and earn a living. And essentially, as it's a digital tool where you're accounting contributions and you're accounting that through token systems, technically speaking, you can aggregate infinite amount of contributions towards that shared goal. Costs of agreements are reduced nearly to zero. So the whole need to have a legal team actually is now streamlined, where through governance, you can actually have inter-DAO agreements between members, or also inter-DAOs between other DAOs to actually bring in full partnerships and align around what you want to do. And all of this serves to essentially unite and extend cooperative networks that are sharing impact. Here you see the basic structure that we've defined to give you an idea of how it works. And it starts organically. So you can see in the middle, there's an anchor, which essentially is, again, taking biomimicry as a model, the nucleus of a cell, where you can bring the founders, the leaders, the people who are guiding this process to define what are the needs, what are the contributions towards that shared space. You're also able to create circles where you create working groups with defined parameters based on smart contracts that automate the processes and allow these groups of people to really focus on what they know best and eliminate all of the other hurdles in terms of having to fundraise, having to do the legal, having to do the finance. It really is an engine to aggregate collective action. And then you can see the community space, which is the threshold of coherence, where people can slowly start gravitating and contributing and also earn value from that collaboration. So what we're doing also here is enabling people to have skin in the game. So essentially every member of a DAO is a shareholder in terms of value of what that ecosystem is doing, but also in terms of voice. And you can allocate voice and value based on different contributions. If you zoom out, the picture of what we're doing, again, starting from the core of the nucleus, where you can have, let's say, a core team. Like imagine if the Alternative Finance Forum here would come together and define what is the alternative economy we would love to do. We would account for all of our contributions as human beings, but also as our organizations. Then we would bring essentially our communities to co-create on that based on the parameters that we define. We would also be able to integrate with other DAOs who are doing similar things, and essentially, as Piotr was showing, that scale really work towards that civilizational shift, the cultural shift that we all need to do it. And this is already happening. We already have multiple DAO to DAO interconnections across the world that are already solving those grand challenges in a fully transparent way to realize this impact economy. So the layer of tokenization is a very important one, where essentially contributions and commitment based on accountability merits recognition and rewards. So this is the major layer of essentially a contribution framework that aligns incentives across an ecosystem. So you're able to do that with multiple forms of token. So for example, every DAO can have its own utility token, which measures the contributions towards shared purpose. So instead of having to negotiate an equity pie every time there's a negotiation or an exchange taking place, you can actually create as much currency as there is demand for exchange, which allows it to really grow organically and in a very simple way. We also have essentially a cash token, which is a stable coin directed to the treasury of the DAO in order to pay for liquid needs. That can be whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, but also stable coins like Tether, USD, etc. But also your native token. And a very important thing here is to also recognize that we've separated value and voice from the equation. A lot of the problems from the legacy financial system comes from the essence where value and voice are convoluted, meaning that whenever there's a injection of money, it also comes with power, and therefore it leads to actually generating the concentration of wealth and concentration of power. In this ecosystem, voice and value are separate. So that means you cannot buy voice. You can buy equity and be part of it and earn, but you cannot buy that voice to actually change the purpose of the direction of the presupposed venture. And this is very important, as you can imagine. And voice cannot be bought or sold. It can only be earned through contributions. There's another layer of tokens that right now we're experimenting with, which is the impact token, which enables every DAO, every digital venture to measure its impact in real time. So it's also building on the previous panel conversation, becomes very interesting because you're actually able to measure the impact that your enterprise is doing, and you're able to compete in an open market based on what impact or what positive impact you're doing towards society, which allows conscious consumers that are interested in consuming from values-aligned organizations to consume from you as a loyalty point. We're also experimenting with the whole layers of community currencies, like seeds, for example, which is one of them, which also serves to provide means of exchange for different community members across an ecosystem. And originally, I wanted to take you through the tool directly, but given the format, I actually just took some main screenshots to show you what it is. But I would all invite you to check out the URL DAO.Hypha.Earth, where you can see this economy is unfolding in real time now as you speak. So you can see how people are contributing, organizing, distributing value, and really solving the grand challenges now. So as you can see, this is sort of like the main dashboard where you're able to see how many tokens have been created, who is the owner of those tokens. So imagine if this was a nation state, you could actually see in real time how much currency is being printed, where that currency is going. If this is a corporation, you would see where are the shares are going, how are they valued, who is getting it from where. So you can also see the contributions that are happening in real time. What are the proposals, vote in favor, against, or in favor or against them. You can see the assignments coming in. You can see also who the active members are. It's all connected to your wallet. You have your own profile, and you essentially have direct skin in the game of what you're doing. In this ecosystem, again, every vote counts. We have a very dynamic governance model where we have essentially sliders that allow you to manage segments such as unity and quorum across the ecosystem, enabling communities to really apply the governance that is innately related to them. So it's not a top-down to say, hey, this is the governance that you should be doing. It allows you to really experiment around governance models and iterate on them in real time. So again, this is something that is not set on stone, but through governance, you can, as a community, optimize and operate and always improve for optimizing the results if you compare it to today's world where we're living in legacy systems and legacy rules that were maybe written 1,000 years ago that are no longer applicable, this is a very dynamic, adjustable way to operate as you go and be future-proof as the challenges come towards you. In terms of compensation, just to make it clear, for example, this is a proposal for a contribution for a role where a community member defines what that role, can even put the documentation, and you can see how the remuneration takes place. So you can say, hey, I commit myself for 50% of my time to do this job, which includes A, B, C, D, to be really transparent and accountable. And I'm saying, look, I need right now cash, but I can actually do with deferring 10% of my salary to be able to receive equity tokens from the digital venture. So as a payment, when this is approved, whenever I accomplish that role, the system automatically through smart contracts pays that out. And as you can also see, the third layer is the H voice. Every contribution has also a voice component to it so that I can continue participating and have value and voice into the ecosystem that I'm inhabiting. There's multiple ways of contributing, whether it's a one-time activity, saying like, hey, I'm providing consultancy to this venture. This is my consultancy value. I can propose it, and if the community wants it, fantastic. If there's recurrent activities, for example, I'm doing this as a long-term, and it's a common role that I'm doing for a certain amount of time, that can also be identified. The other layer where it also gets very exciting is the organizational asset. So again, this is where things as contribution accounting in multiple forms of capital take place. If I have a piece of land that I'm making available, I can actually evaluate it, put it in there, be part of the economical engine processes, and receive merits and rewards from it too. And a whole layer of other ways of remunerating, whether it's quests, whether it's bounties that essentially reduce and manage risk around economical activities, are all possible. So yeah, what we've been busy building is essentially a family of tools that enable essentially a full-fledged economical system to take root wherever it's necessary, ranging from wallets, from a digital passport, from decentralized exchanges when now tokens can be exchanged. We're working with financial institutions to provide liquidity to the most promising impact economies that are happening across the edge, across the world. And here you can see some of our pathways. So if you zoom out what we're doing in terms of transparent impact economies that are showcasing their impact in real time and how their value flows and voice flows are emerging, this becomes a perfect vehicle for collaborative impact investment that allows investors to allocate resource to expand the impact in towards different things. So we have a staking layer where investment funds or impact funds can actually support this emerging ecosystems and provide liquidity to them, whether it's in bioregional DAOs that we're creating in different parts of the world. In Costa Rica is one of our most promising parts of the world where we're already working with several hundred organizations towards creating DAOs for the entire nation state of Costa Rica. We're also working with measuring around SDGs or ESGs as well to have that as impact measures. You can apply that to universities, to nation states, which we're doing to villages, to cities, and allowing this sort of cooperative networks to unfold. This is what we're aiming for, and I think it's been stated a few times. So today's world economy is estimated to be $100 trillion a year. Of that, the global green economy is around 2.8 trillion, which is relatively small. And if you even look further closer, the global impact economy is $56 billion a year. So as we build these tools, we're right now aiming to go for at least 2% of the global impact economy to include that and really move up the ladder. I seriously believe that as this information continues building, that consumers will have the right and will, opt for impact products that relate to their values. So in a few years, we're aiming that, the actual 100 trillion, if that's already in that space, will all be the impact economy. So that's going again to alternative finance being the finance of the future. This is also an example of what we're doing. I mentioned organization in the box as a DAO, but the same system we have a ecosystem as a service technology where a DAO can also include individuals, but also organizations. So it's very interesting. We have in today's economy, essentially organizations competing for artificially scarce resources with each other. So what happens if we create a cooperative vehicle that allows multiple organizations sharing purpose to cooperate to tackle the problems that they share purpose with? So this is also what we're doing. So the bottom layer is the conceptual framework where the contractual work takes place. This is what you see in the DAO platforms, which is then connected through the global outreach with all of these tools, which allows us to do really local actions and local trials and generate real actual wealth and impact on the ground, as you see on the top layer, where we're doing all of these different trial balloons. These are some of the emergent pilots. I'll skip quickly through this one. You can also ask me about details in terms of different sectors and disciplines where DAOs are being applied, whether it's in the education level, in healthcare sector, in governance, in nation states, ESG, you name it. And again, in the previous panel, it was also spoken about this. It's about the network effects. The beautiful thing about this is as we integrate diversity into our economical systems and democratize governance and the economy, we're able to bring in more participation, more coordination, more interconnectedness across the space, which allows us to unlock resources for all of those involved in a really massive exponential effect. And that's also why I'm so positive about this transition, because it's going to happen much faster than we've been made to believe. Here I have one example also based on what we've been speaking before for farmers. It's a very interesting way, as we were here in other previous panels. Farming is important because it's the lifeblood of our economy. Everybody eats, and we cannot eat money. But what happens if we start valuing our farmers, or farmers start valuing their contributions to the world in a way that it's fair? So we're able to right now provide these tools to, for example, for farmer communities, where through the organizational governance, they can better manage what they're doing. They can provide these economical tools to manage their equity and revenue sharing, where it's a cooperative now. So the surplus is distributed to all the members rather than, one trying to outcompete the other for the artificially scarce market. So we're also building other layers onto this, which comes with trusted certificates, supply chain transparency, escrow services. Also, we talked, I think, yesterday with some of colleagues here around trusted certificates that really come from the grassroots, not imposed from the market, but really allowing it to emerge in a more organic and natural way. And this is also something very interesting in terms of the Hypha DAO process. To give you an idea, people, when they think about blockchain, they think about cryptocurrency. And this is essentially a misnomer. The true value of blockchain, in a very simple way, and I realize, even 90% of the developers working on blockchain don't understand this important difference. Blockchain is a governance tool. It allows you to change a series of bytes from one owner to another. So really the democratization aspect of what economies are at the root of this. So this is just in essence to show you when we started Hypha with a handful of people. Across the time, as more people came, this is the distribution of voice. So you can see as more people come in and more people contribute, all of that voice across aligned incentives is aggregated, which creates a very healthy environment for essentially merit to emerge, for people to say, hey, I want to contribute with this is my skills. And we're getting the most amazing people rising up to the occasion to help build this with us. And this is also my invitation to you to collaborate and co-create. And this is why we're here for in Greece, to create an alternative economic system. And I would be very glad to find ways to co-create with each one of you. And that's also my email, and feel free to reach out.